Flo is going to tell us about the international newspapers now, what is grabbing headlines around the world. Story we brought you yesterday. This time yesterday it was sort of breaking news on the show. In fact, Pakistan reacting to this deadly suicide attack on a police training academy in the city of Quetta.
That's right. Let's start with the newspaper Dawn that has some pretty chilling accounts from survivors of that attack that happened in the middle of the night, essentially, just around 11:20 p.m. local time. You can see this quote from one of the cadets who jumped out a window, in fact, to escape. He says, "I lay on the ground injured for 1 hour until I was rescued." Now, the militants targeted sleeping quarters, reportedly pretending to be soldiers, tricking people into opening their doors. This is the third biggest attack in Pakistan this year. You can see this other article in Dawn focusing on the Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif. He rushed to the scene to meet with some of the victims. You can see he says that the attackers came from neighboring Afghanistan.
Now, the government's come under a lot of fire, a lot of criticism for failing to do enough to crack down on Islamist terrorism. Just this summer, a suicide bomb called Sever and killed 70 lawyers, didn't it? Also in Quetta.
That's right. Let's take a look at another Pakistani paper, The Nation. Their editorial today is saying another Quetta attack. So dire is the condition of the city that the phrase Quetta attack has lost its significance. It needs to be followed by a date to specify which tragedy we're referring to. Now, like in August, there's been a flurry of activity from the government. You see the Prime Minister rushing to the scene. But is there any real substance to this activity? This editorial says that at one point it's necessary to assign blame and to ask for accountability. There's a similar feeling in another Pakistani paper, Pakistan Today, in their editorial. And it goes a little bit further. It says that there was no proper inquiry into the August attack, and inaction on that led to this new tragedy. How much is too much? And this editorial calls for an independent, high-level probe into both attacks.
Let's move to some news coming out of Asia. The Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte arriving in Tokyo yesterday. This is for a 3-day visit.
That's right. It's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal Asia. You can see the president there. Duterte looks to reassure a very skeptical Japan. Now, his visit to Japan comes after he visited China last week, and you can read about that more in the Japan Times, which focuses on the fact that he really cozied up to leaders in Beijing and said that he was separating from the U.S. Now, he's since softened those comments, but in recent months, he's really been upping the tone against the United States, going so far as to insult the President Barack Obama. You might remember that from September. Yeah. Now, the Japan Times says that Japan is very concerned about this pivot towards China, this pivot away from the United States, because, of course, the United States is a very important ally of Japan's, and so it's very concerned. And this meeting that's going to take place, the meetings that are going to take place over the next 3 days, a lot of it is probably going to be about wondering just what the Philippines are going to do about the United States.
Protocol experts are rather worried as well, aren't they, Flo? Just wondering perhaps what Duterte might come out with. There might be a little faux pas in there somewhere.
That's right. They're wondering one thing in particular. Is he going to chew gum in front of the emperor when he meets him? He's supposed to meet him on Friday. Now, this is getting a lot of attention around the world. I pulled out an article from The National, which is actually a paper from the United Arab Emirates. Now, remember, Japan is a country where politeness is very important, highly valued. And some are worried about his rough side because essentially Japanese TV has been showing repeatedly footage of what happened in China when he was meeting with the Chinese president, Xi Jinping. He walked into that meeting with his hands in his pockets and he chewed gum during handshakes and signing ceremonies. Yeah. And so protocol experts are terrified that this is going to happen in Japan. Remember, in Japan, the emperor was considered a living god until the end of the Second World War. People are still expected to be very polite and nice to him. And so people are kind of bracing themselves to see what's going to happen.
Perhaps he'll get it out and stick it under his chair or something like that. Anyway, let's move on to some news coming out of the UK. Papers there reacting to Prime Minister Theresa May's decision to opt for a third runway at Heathrow Airport.
That's right. Now, some papers are very excited about this. Let's take a look at the front page of City AM, the London-based business paper. You can see they're talking about finally the government is going to give a green light to this airport expansion. This is a signal that Britain is open for business, but don't hold your breath. You can see this expect delays because there's turbulence ahead, according to City AM. London's former and current mayors, so Boris Johnson and Sadiq Khan, have said they will fight the decision for numerous reasons, among them that it could be bad for London's air quality. Now, The Guardian, in its editorial, really agrees with this. If we take a look at their editorial today, they're disappointed that this decision has been made. The Guardian says it's disappointed that climate concerns have lost out to the drive for economic growth.
And staying with The Guardian, they've got their hands on a secret recording, haven't they, of Prime Minister Theresa May that dates from before the Brexit vote.
That's right. Now, this is really a big story in the UK today. Let's take a look at the front page of The Guardian. You can see it's an exclusive for them today. These leaked recordings reveal what May really thinks about the Brexit, according to The Guardian. Now, this is a recording of a secret audience with investment bankers at Goldman Sachs a month before the referendum when Theresa May was Home Secretary. Now, according to this leaked recording that The Guardian got their hands on, she has several concerns about Britain leaving the EU. For instance, and this is very interesting, she warns that companies will leave the UK, and she also says that it's time that Britain took a lead in Europe. So these discussions that were happening in private are very different from what she was saying in public.
Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about secret recording, let's go to the New York Times. They got their hands on some secret recordings as well. This is with Donald Trump. It's actually several hours of interviews that were conducted in 2014, and it's pretty fascinating. The recordings reveal a man who's fixated on his celebrity, and you can see his fear of losing his status.
Okay, thank you very much, Flo. Flo Vilman.